Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our next installment in the Succession Matching Community Project webinar series. Today, Alison Anderson, CEO of Succession Matching, is going to be presenting on tips and traps for writing a successful succession plan. Without further ado, take it away, Alison.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Warren, and welcome everyone. We appreciate you taking the time out for these sessions, and thank you very much for everyone who's watching the follow-up recordings if you weren't able to join us live. So as Warren said, my name is Alison Anderson. I'm the CEO of Succession Matching, and I'll give you a brief overview of what we're going to look at today. So we're going to take a little bit different approach to writing a succession plan and really concentrate on that why to write a succession plan and how to set up so it's a little bit more balanced with your life as well. So we're going to go over some reasons why owners actually create a succession plan and evaluating the difference between immediate and ultimate goals so that it's not as overwhelming. And then we're going to talk about setting SMART goals and balanced goals for our own lives, some timeline, and then the 5 phases to a business transition and actually creating a succession plan. So this may seem like an obvious question, but why write a succession plan? Or what are some reasons people write a succession plan? One obvious one is baby boomers interested in selling their business and retire, or individuals that need to divest for health reasons or economic factors. We've seen quite a bit of that lately. But some less obvious reasons is your succession plan should be built into your strategic plan, because this is what the foundation of what you actually want to do with your company will have an effect on the structure, the short and long-term decisions on staff, projects, and direction. People should also act as though every business is for sale. So if the right buyer does come along, you're more prepared for the unexpected, like a health issue, or if that buyer comes along and contacts you. And another reason that people should work on a succession plan is company expansion. If you're looking at moving into different markets or growing in size, having a succession plan will help identify some of those internal issues and then build up key roles or help them access new projects or direction. So before you get started on your company succession plan, one thing that's often overmissed is understanding what you actually want as a business owner. So that's why we're going to take some time today to talk about your own personal goals. And I want to say a big thank you to Dr. Reagan Patrick from the Department of Neuropsychology and Geriatrics at McLean Hospital, and he's currently working at Harvard Medical School. He helped us a lot with some of the direction on the goal setting, and we're using that to integrate more to the actual succession plans with our members. So before we get started with the company's succession planning goals, we want to set up some of our personal goals. So this is very applicable to any of the service professionals or economic development professionals that are tuning in. So feel free to take out a piece of paper and write down some of these goals for yourself. But first, we need to understand what the difference between an ultimate and an immediate goal is. So an ultimate goal typically has a longer time frame and requires more than one step. They also tend to carry more weight and personal significance. For example, an ultimate goal might be, I want to improve my fitness level, or I want to retire on a beach. These goals are incredibly meaningful, but are unlikely to happen overnight. By contrast, a goal that you can reach fairly quickly, often in one step, is an immediate goal. Every ultimate goal can be broken down into a series of immediate goals that have higher probability of success. In setting up your succession plan, breaking ultimate goals down into small immediate goals will not only help you increase your chance of success, but also make this process more manageable and reduce the anxiety that you may feel towards setting up a succession plan. We also want to make sure that all of these goals are SMART goals. So I'm not sure if anyone's had any exposure to SMART goals, but the acronym stands for specific, my own, action-oriented, realistic, and time-bound. So just to give you a little bit more background on constructing your goal, being specific, you want it to be precise and clear as possible. Make sure to include specific times, dates, locations, and actions. Example would be, I want to sell my business and retire by May 1st, 2021. Making it your own. Making your goal your own has two meanings. First, it should be something that you want rather than something you think someone else wants you to do. And more motivating intrinsically the goal is, the more likely you are to follow through. Second, your goal should not depend on someone else's cooperation or participation. You can't control other people's behavior, so why risk making a goal that could be derailed by someone else's action or lack thereof? And action-oriented, your goal should do something. While this might seem obvious, people often set goals that are aimed at changing how they think or feel, rather than specifically an action that they may carry out. The goal should also be realistic. So we're going to talk a little bit about that when we talk about the actual financial planning aspect of your succession plan, but is it realistic to retire by May 1st, 2021? And every goal should be realistic and an achievable target. In other words, only set goals that you're 100% certain that you can accomplish. So becoming the world's largest company in the next 5 years is probably unlikely to happen. And if you set a goal like that, you're setting yourself up to not get it done. So it's better to have actual realistic goals. Then make sure it's time bound. So like the May 1st, 2021, the immediate goal should have clearly defined timeframes for completion, and try to avoid making goals that include phrases like sometime this month or in the next week. You're much more likely to put things off if you don't have a firm timeline. So if you have your goal to have your first quarter filed on time, setting a goal to work on it at 9 a.m. Monday, April 10th will help you achieve that by month end. And then we're also going to, as I mentioned, we're going to look at some of our own personal goals, which we'll use later on when we're talking about engaging the succession planning professional. So it's really important to have balance in your life, like we've learned from Dave's presentation earlier this week on having a more balanced entrepreneurship. So understanding what you want in 7 different areas will really help you achieve that. And so if you'd like to participate, you can take some notes on yourself and set some actual goals today. So physical well-being goals. Are you eating properly, getting enough sleep, and active? When I started my business, I was doing none of these. I used to take pride in how little sleep I could function on, and my body absolutely rebelled. So as an entrepreneur, you should make sure that you're looking after yourself and your physical well-being and still making time for that. Relationship goals. In the last 6 months, how much time have you spent with your family, friends, or romantic partner? Some of the biggest regrets over the last 10 years for me was not making enough time to go to weddings or see the people that were really important to me. And so there's no such thing as enough time for relationships, so make sure that you bring it down to proper time management and communication. Personal development goals. What are you doing to better your mind? Are you taking any classes? Are you continuing to read or listen to any podcasts? When you're getting ready in the morning, you might want to think about listening some Khan Academy videos or join some meetup groups to meet different people and practice maybe a language skill that you're working on. Financial goals, and obviously if you're looking at transitioning out of your business in the next 5 years, this will be a huge aspect of it. But how much money do you want to have in the bank? How much money do you need to have in the bank? Personal finances, like running a business, can vary a lot of your business decisions and retirement decisions. So it's important to understand how this aspect of your life will be affected. And then company goals. Think about when you first started or took over your company, what were you trying to accomplish? By understanding what you'd like to do with your company at the end will help you set up priorities and focus in the short term. Think about originally what made you happy or proud to be in the business, and make sure you have specific goals for that as well. What do you do to relax? Are you still doing some of these things? A lot of people have a difficult time transitioning into retirement because they've lost what they had enjoyed for. So making sure that you have extra hobbies or things that you do to have fun or travel or something like that. Make sure it's still top of mind and that you're still doing some of that as you're preparing to retire. That's the reason why a lot of people look for second jobs into retirement. It might not be a financial reason, but it might be because they don't have anything to fill that time with. The spiritual goals, this doesn't have to be religious. It can be just a connection or a mindset that you have to help. For me, some things that take a meaning, like this weekend I volunteered for the Rotary Camp Enterprise, helping introduce high school students to the idea of entrepreneurship. And it was very cool to see why people wanted to get into business and help me reconnect with some of those ideas. So once you have all these goals written down, you can start looking at your timelines for the actual business transition. So one thing that really surprises many people is how long a business transition actually takes. And on average, it's between 2 and 7 years in Canada. If you spend a lot of time on your succession plan, you can save a lot of time when it comes to the actual business transition, because you won't have to spend as much time cleaning up internal issues, or the due diligence will go more quickly because you have all your ducks in a row. So the first phase in the writing your succession plan is getting your company books in order and identifying internal issues. So when you receive this webinar in the follow-up link from Dana, there'll be a link to our due diligence checklist on the website, or else if you're watching a recording of this video, it's in the comment section of the video. And this is to help you encourage to think like a buyer. They will likely ask you many of these questions, and just make sure that you have your house in order so that you can answer some of these when that day comes. And here's a few examples of some of the questions. So the purchase sale agreement should normally cover the matters listed in the link that you'll receive. So price, purchase terms, including closing date, clear definition of what is being purchased, identification of parties involved in the transaction, buyer and seller representations, obligations, and warranties. So some of this may sound overwhelming, but a lot of these things that you will be able to cover with your succession planning professional, which I'll talk about in a couple slides. So engaging the succession planning professional, there's a number of strategies that you can deploy to save money on some of these. So here are 3 suggestions that I have for you to save money when you're engaging some of these people. So understanding what you need or what you want before you actually meet with your accountant, lawyer, or financial planners. And that's why it's so important to understand your own personal goals. The second one is plan ahead. Like I said, the average transition in Canada takes 2 to 7 years, and you can space out a lot of these appointments or integrate it into some of the meetings that you already have. So for example, if you're meeting with your accountant to talk about your succession or for your company year end, you can also let them know that you're looking at transitioning out of your business, and you can explore different plans and options with them for tax savings as you meet with them for their annual appointments. You can also take part in the rest of our webinar series. So here are some of the sessions that we have lined up. So looking at these, going to your, like I said, your tax planning with your accountant, we've got a session coming up on that. Or a big one is legal considerations for the transition plan. So a lot of people don't know what the difference between a share and asset sale is. So you can take advantage of attending some of those webinars. Or we had the great webinar from Dan Oler on employee share ownership program. So if you're looking at implementing something internally, he had a lot of great resources, and really enjoyed the webinar yesterday from Christy, just some HR issues before, during, and after the transition. So it's pretty inexpensive to attend some of those webinars and engage the succession planning professionals one-on-one, and you can ask them any questions. So this third phase is actually engaging your family or staff. And I can't stress this is not enough. And Christy really highlighted this yesterday too, because she kept saying communicate, communicate, communicate. Communication is absolutely key to a proper succession plan. So engage family or staff to see if they're what their interest is and let them know that you're putting a plan in place. I was working with one of our members and he was very hesitant. He had identified a staff that would be a good person to take over, but a lot of business owners are a little bit scared to engage that staff member to see if they would take over the business because they're scared that they'll start looking for another job. But this individual was in their late 70s, and I reassured him that the staff would feel more comfortable if they knew that you had an actual succession plan in place. And, you know, it can help with employee retention, or it can also help them kind of shape the future if they are interested. It can also help you sidestep some, you know, reduce the risk of a surprise, I guess. According to the Canadian Federation of Independent Business, 88% of family-run companies think that the same family will run the business in 5 years, but in reality, that's about a 30% will transition to the second generation. So we had another client that called us in a panic because he thought his son was going to move home from Calgary and take over the family farm. But when he phoned his son after seeding and said, you know, after harvest, your mom and I are moving out to Kelowna, you can come home and take over the farm. This individual had absolutely no interest whatsoever in coming home. So reducing that risk of surprise by engaging and communicating that early with your family or your staff will let you know if you have to start actually looking for a third-party buyer and help your succession planning professionals set up your plan with you accordingly. So the fourth stage is mentoring. So a lot of times we sit down and we write out kind of a square block about filling the gap. So what you want to do is look at your, do an internal needs assessment essentially and figure out what gaps that you need to fill and how are you going to fill that. Is it going to be in some mentorship or some additional training? And so you always want to ask yourself two questions about each position. What are they capable of, and are they interested? And then the third additional question is, if they're not capable of that, is what type of training or education do they need? An example of this would be if you do the books for your company and you've identified a staff member that's interested and would be a really good fit, but they don't know how to do the books, you can either show them how to do the books, or maybe it'd be advantageous for them to take a course on bookkeeping. And I know a lot of the local community features offer some bookkeeping courses, so you can keep an eye out for that over the course of your timelines and make sure that they pick up some of those classes and have that chance for that additional education. And then the fifth stage, which is really important, is make sure that your succession plan ties back into your company's strategic plan. So outline these timelines, very similar to the SMART goals that you set for yourself personally. Make these ultimate, break them down into immediate goals, outline them in writing, and then outline who's responsible for that goal and make sure that they really champion it. And then that can help you with some of your hiring decisions, or it can help you with when you are assessing if the buyer is a good fit for your organization. Do any of these skills in the fourth phase tie back? So it really helps with the strategic plan of direction if you know exactly how you want to exit your business. And so this is what we're trying to avoid. According to the Canadian Federation of Independent Business, only 9% of business owners have a formal succession plan. So a lot of people that I talk to, they have a succession plan, but it's just in their head. I can't stress enough that it's very important to actually write out this plan. Very similar to goals, if they're not written down, they're dreams. So just in conclusion, check off the things from your due diligence checklist and make sure that you integrate them into your strategic plan, and make sure that you have someone that you want to train in, say, the bookkeeping classes. But that wraps up the webinar. So does anyone have any questions?
Any questions, anyone? Well, Alison, great presentation, and thank you everyone for coming out. Oh, Carol just said thank you. And yeah, so wonderful. And if there are any follow-up questions, Alison has her email and phone number on the screen right now, so please don't hesitate to write to her one-on-one.
Perfect. And thanks for attending, everyone. GEDC, I'll follow up with you via email and see if I can help you with the question yesterday. For Christy, really sorry that we missed that in the chat box.
Okay, great. Thanks, Alison. And we will see everyone at the next webinar.
Thanks, Lauren. Bye for now.